What, I'm enjoying Florida, hope it's nice here? That one? Yes, I did see that email, thank you very much.
Before you start, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I saw that article in that thing downstairs, the magazine downstairs says the civil procedure is going to be on the 2015
Yes.
mass block. I thought it was already on.
No, well, it's going to be on the multi-state. Let me just explain Gary's question for everyone else so that you guys can start to think a little more about improving your knowledge of Civ Pro, which obviously you've thought about it since you're in remedies. It is now on the essay, it's in the essay, so you write about it, Civ Pro wherever you see it within the various 10 Massachusetts essays. Starting in 2015, it is going to become the 7th multi-state subject tested as well. And so it'll be 7 divided by 200, whatever that is. Should be somewhere in the high mid-20s, 25 or the 27, somewhere around there, 28. Probably 28 it sounds. 28 questions specifically now on Civ Pro, in addition to the contracts, torts, property, crim law, crim pro, and evidence. So what they've been over the last few years, I believe, and I'm pretty sure of this, but I haven't seen the test myself, but based on feedback I've been getting, they've been starting to test some of the Civ Pro questions in there. Usually, as a general matter on the bar exam, while it's out of 200 questions, 10 of them are usually sample questions that they're testing for future years. And students have been coming back to us on the Wednesday night. We have a bar review that we do to sort of get ready for the essays, and they've been coming back over the last few years, really, maybe at least three of the last exams, saying that they saw Civ Pro questions in the multi-state section. And so my belief is what they're doing is they're already field testing some of the questions for the use on the multi-state exam. So that's what's going to happen in 2015, is that there'll be a 7th subject added, so there'll be a reduction of about 5 questions in the other subjects, or about 4 questions probably in the other subjects, in order to accommodate the multi-state testing of Civ Pro. So Civ Pro will be both, just like evidence and just like the other subjects, be tested both on the multi-state section as well as the essay section. Okay? So you got to bone up on your Civ Pro and your federal jurisdiction and the like, because it's it'll be just as valuable to know that as the other 6 subjects for both days of the testing. Okay? Questions on that? But 2015, you should be okay before then. What they are going to require, though, for all of you, and this will be as of September of this year, is that once you are admitted to practice, the Supreme Court has has adopted a rule and now is looking for proposals for within 18 months of your being admitted to the bar, you will have to take a separate course, a one-day course is all it is, on practicing with professionalism, civility, the types of things that when that's not done, it makes the practice unpleasant, but what it also does is it has attorneys get into big trouble. So there's a new requirement from the SJC about once you've been admitted to make sure that you are exposed to the types of incivility and unprofessionalism that our graduates would never conduct themselves with. So, questions on that? So, hopefully you'll be past the bar before you ever have to worry about the Civ Pro component, but you will be exposed to the second part of it, which within 18 months of being admitted as a lawyer. We're still working our way through Section 9 and Section 10 this week, and we started with our concerns about contracts for personal services and enforcement, and then we really get to these cases, and I gave you another little handout today and had Dan posted online about some selected Massachusetts provisions that deal with the issues that are attendant with surrogate parenting and the like. And some of them are probably, it should be straightforward to you, but obviously these cases, whatever issues that would arise, will most likely be appropriately dealt with in the probate and family court, where they are best suited to try and address some of these issues. But if you look at the selected case law, one of them is the Culleton case, because we have some issues that are just sort of practical issues as well, as whose name goes on the birth certificate and how does that get accomplished. And obviously, as you see, you can do that through a pre-birth ruling. You know, who is in fact going to be the parents? Where will the agreement be enforceable, and how does that work as well as the HOTUS case? And then you've got the New Jersey case, which really started all of this off, which was Baby M. And part of it obviously deals with, if you're going to work in this area, is finding a court, finding a state that will permit the agreement to be able to take place, because some of the concerns are, and we have it within Mass, is that oftentimes states will prevent the relinquishment of any form of parental rights until the child is actually born. Well, that might make sense in a straight adoption proceeding, but in the proceeding where someone else is providing the genetic material, that would really be problematic for many parents to think that, in essence, a stranger to their baby might not just have some rights in the development of that child's life, but may have superior rights to even those that set this whole plan in motion through what we call the procreative conduct. And then you also get into the issues of monetary sources. Then there's some print articles and the like that even at this point start to become dated as you think about them, because some of them are early 2000s, but there's stuff to start to think about. I had a few other things just to mention to you from my past stuff. Looked at this before you start to tell me about what provisions you're putting in the agreement and how you're going to possibly enforce it. Online, there should be some provisions from Boston IVF, an agreement, if you wanted to look at that and see how some of that works. And they have a consent form for egg donation and gestational surrogacy. And the sixth person that I think I meant to mention the other day and we didn't, is when we talked about potentially there are 6 people involved in this arrangement that could all claim some rights of a parent, when it's the surrogate, the procreative parents, the people who gave birth to the idea, gets us to 3. If the egg and sperm are donated by 2 other people, we're up to 5. The surrogate's husband obviously has some rights and has to be accounted for in this process, because in many jurisdictions, including this one, there is a presumption that a child born to a married woman is the product of that union, and therefore the husband to the surrogate potentially has a claim in this as well. So when we start to think about sorting all of this out, it becomes quite a conundrum at times. And in essence, you guys are required to think about all of this stuff in advance, or if you're not thinking about it, at some point they're going to expect you to sign off and give your blessing to it all. And if you look at the Boston IVF, they even try to worry about, well, what about, thawing the frozen embryos? What about the embryos that aren't going to take this time? And so the agreement is, I think, quite extensive, and obviously you're going to have to help interpret it for them as well. And then I've got some other pieces I just want you to think about. This was an article from the Boston Globe just a few years ago, and the title says, "Top Students' Eggs to Reap Rewards." People try to genetically engineer this, and I don't know to what extent that suits you or not. But the lead paragraph says the Harvard Crimson was one of 3 college newspapers that ran an identical classified ad seeking a woman who fit a narrow profile, younger than 29, with a GPA over 3.5 and an SAT score over 1,400. The lucky candidate stood to collect $35,000 if she donated her eggs for harvesting. And then it has a little list over here about general compensation for, and this isn't for the surrogate, right? This is for the person who simply donates the genetic material, and it's not simply. Egg donation is a lot more difficult than sperm donation, but still.
I thought about it.
Yes? Have you really?
Yeah, so I could pay for law school.
You thought egg donation or surrogacy?
Egg donation.
Egg donation.
Yeah, but they don't want black women. They ask for a specific, they're very, very.
Because you're an athlete. So, no, really, does that price go up? It must.
I would hope so. I mean, because per egg, you get paid a pretty decent amount of money, seriously. So, I mean, I don't know how I would feel about having a bunch of little Kellys around. You know.
Well, did you think of that at the time? I mean, you must have given that some thought.
Yeah, I mean, I play back and forth with it. I'm very serious about that, though. I thought about it, seriously.
Do any of you have any questions for Kelly? A bunch of
Touching that one.
It's better than stripping.
Well, that's true.
I guess your mother would be so proud you made that choice. I bet your mom. I don't quite think so, Cal. Well, we can come back to that in a minute. I had this article. I just enjoyed the article, and of course the headline from it. This was Times Magazine a few years back, and it said, "Looking for Mr. Good Sperm." It's got a woman next to a test tube here, and what it said is they're single women. They've decided to have babies on their own. Somehow they don't think they need us, Ash. And they're developing some very weird relationships with the guys who fill the test tubes. So, and by the way, I had a very close friend who worked here. She went to California, and she did really just this. She had, she actually had one baby, and she, she went through the book. She went to the book looking to select her partner, and then she ended up dying relatively young. She had some medical issues, and then she had 2 more after she was dead.
What? Yep.
Her embryos,
Yep.
before she died, she had another pair implanted in another surrogate in California, and then after her death, 2 more babies were born that are, I guess, her baby, right? Her children. So she ended up leaving 3 children, 2 of whom were born after her death.
So her legacy continues.
Her legacy continues, that's correct. So,
I have a sister.
okay.
Who, she's not married, and she wanted a baby, so she went and did that sperm thing. It's funny, when I started reading these questions, I actually called her up because I wanted to know more about it.
Yeah.
And she actually did. She said she sat in front at a table, and there was a book that she actually picked, what the sex might be, and the father had blonde hair, had blue eyes. He was a sports, he was an athlete. And then they had a little bit about his health issues and whatever. And I did ask her if she's, at this point, does she know anything more about him? And she does have a whole record on the man, but not his name, his whereabouts, or whatever. But she has all his health history and everything.
And you realize that's sort of the next frontier here, at least as some of it is, well, what happens when the children are a sufficient age? Do they get, a lot of times the sperm donors, the egg donors are people in school who are looking to pick up some cash in a relatively painless way, and they're doing it anonymously. But then the question comes later down the road is, well, what are the rights of the children as well, which we haven't really touched on either here,
Well,
is to know who the parent is.
I asked my nephew, he's of an age that I was able to talk to him as well. And I asked him, I said, how do you feel about having no father? Well, you have no father. And he said that his father is his mother. So I thought that was really, to me, like, I don't know how I'd feel being a sperm baby, or whatever the heck you wanna call it, but he seemed very content with what.
With who
he
he
had.
is and
Yeah.
what, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
would it be any
Well, the alternative is he wouldn't be born at all.
Right.
No,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Sunshine, he would have no life. That's the alternative, isn't it? At least in this case.
I hate to say this, and I know all you men are gonna get an ego boost, but you really cannot raise children without the man. You need both parties. I hate to say that, but it's true. When it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you have 3 kids and you need a break, and you're crying and your husband's there and he picks up the slack, you will appreciate him so much more. So go ahead.
I won't be there for that, so.
I disagree.
You disagree, but
I mean, I was raised in a 2-parent home. I get it, and I'm sure that it's easier, but there are a lot of single moms out here that have very successful children, and they've done it with the help of your grandparent, or a friend, or a neighbor, or something.
I didn't say that it cannot be done. I said that it should not be done without a mother and a father.
I would agree, I respect it.
Yes, yes, okay. I disagree as well.
I respect it, but,
Well, let me just try and make her point slightly different. To the extent we can, the likelihood is, we would all agree that, well, okay, we would likely all agree on this, that the best situation for a child to be raised is with 2 healthy, happy, wealthy, well, I don't know. Well, you need money, children are expensive, so don't say wealthy, parents.
Yes.
But a lot of kids, but, what?
I said financially stable.
Financially stable, right. I didn't mean wealthy per se. I meant have enough money because they're damn expensive.
Mhm.
But the fact is, most kids aren't. Whether there are 2 parents still there and they're not all that happy, or whether there's one parent who is more than suitable because of whatever. I mean, all things being equal, we might have an ideal model, but we know most children aren't raised under that ideal model, even where there's 2 parents. I don't disagree with you. I was the one who got up in the middle of the night, okay?
Oh,
So,
bless your heart.
so, I mean, but all things being equal, we don't always have all things being equal. Go ahead.
If I may, what made your sister go that route with the sperm bank, and like, did she have
She
unsuccessful?
was done with guys like you, Ash.
I can tell you exactly what she said to me. My sister's a vice president of a big company, and she has a very busy lifestyle, and she's had some bad experiences with men as well. But
And she points to you.
she was getting, I don't know enough to say that, but she said that she was getting older in life, and she's always wanted a child. So she said, what a better way than, you know. And I did ask her if she would be open to a marriage or whatever. She said yes, but she wanted a child more than she wanted a husband.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
She said to me.
Yeah, but, Ella just said that's sweet, and I understand where you're coming from on that, so I don't wanna ding anything. But it's, again, I'm not as far as Sunshine on this probably, but it might be sweet, but again, it's not ideal. I mean, I think it's another problem in society is there's a lot of older women. As I was reading one of these articles, one of them said a lot of older women, some in their 50s and 60s. I'm saying to myself, why don't you just, try to learn how to get along with a guy, and try to give this kid a father, It's
Oh
like,
my God, you know how
something.
sexist that sounds.
But it's like, what kind of society are we
Pretty
gonna
bad.
have if more and more people say, it's sweet that you don't have a father, it's a good thing? That's my concern.
Well, why isn't it sweet that she wants to have a family, and at this point, these are her choices, as opposed to just finding a man who may turn out to be a bum or the worst father in the whole world, simply because now we've got a 2-parent household, which meets everyone else's ideal of what you say it should be.
You don't have to settle.
No, you don't.
You really don't have to settle. Like,
But
we
do
have
you
other
try?
options, thankfully.
Do you even try?
And you know,
I mean, sometimes.
You know, not for nothing,
her
Gary.
career was more important.
no, that's not true. That is so wrong. That's not
I
true.
understand.
That's not true. Like my sister.
Maybe I don't need to try, maybe this is what's gonna make me happy.
That's selfish.
No wife.
No, it's not.
No
Why
wife.
is it
No
selfish?
wife, no
I think
husband.
it is.
But why
I'm
is
gonna
that
dote on
selfish?
my child, or children.
Everybody's
And
not
she
married.
does, she
Everybody
don't.
doesn't necessarily want to get married. You may want to have a family, but you may not necessarily necessarily want to get
But
married.
then don't have a child then. Think of the
No,
child's
it's not
best
fair because
interest.
She wants to have a child.
But
She
my
can have a
sister's
child.
son is
Why
doing
can't
wonderfully.
why can't they person have a child? Single people have children all the time by themselves.
That's a Republican coming out of you. You better keep it
I'm
up
gonna
there.
tell Gary.
Oh, wait, we don't.
I'm just trying to start debate.
As an example, I'm gonna tell you an example. My sister's a single parent. Her son is beautiful. I love my nephew. He is in every sport that I can imagine. I mean, she takes him to every sport. He plays he does everything that a normal child does. So you have a single parent with a wonderful kid. I mean, he's a straight A student. Then you look at, I'm gonna use my kids as an example. I have 6 children, and out of my 6 children, 2 of them are derelicts. Straight up. I'm gonna tell you straight up, they're derelicts. I wanna kill them both. So it doesn't matter. I had a father and a mother throughout the whole thing, and you got her as a single parent. He's doing great. You know what I mean? So I guess for me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I'm not
I see
trying
an
to-
issue from Gary's standpoint where they start to now think about having children later in life, 40s and 50s. Then even more towards that extreme, parents that are older, what are they going to do as they get older, health risks, maybe pass away, and that might be detrimental to a child.
Okay, but wait,
That's
okay,
the
but
only concern I have.
Right, you can
You
die
can
at
pass away
17.
any day.
Yeah.
Guaranteed tomorrow. No,
Right.
that's true. I mean, be for real about it though.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, you can't sit up here and say that somebody's not getting along with someone of the opposite sex. I mean, you don't have to necessarily have the opposite sex to have a child. What I'm saying is,
I'm saying take that out of the equation. I'm saying my concern about people, taking this route later in life.
Intentional.
For whatever reason, it's a greater risk that the child's now gonna be parentless. It's a greater risk. We're not guaranteed tomorrow, but it is. It's a greater risk the older you are.
And therefore what, though?
Well, let me ask the-
Therefore, that child will be best not to be born
No,
at all.
let me ask the question this way to Kelly or whoever wants to take it, okay? So, do you not think that if somebody puts their career, number one, waits too long, could have had a baby in her 20s
Well,
or
what's that
30s,
mean, wait too long, though? That's not
or
always.
wait long, a period of time, and then decides at 52, okay, I want a baby. Now, is that in the best interest of the child, or is it any selfishness involved there at all?
No.
So wait a minute, though, just so we're clear, because this is my conundrum on this. So what would be in the better interest of the child is that there be no child?
Probably, because what if they...
Well, how is that in the best
Okay.
interest of the child to not exist at all? Right.
It's a little bit selfish to think that it's about me, and I'm putting my personal desires over having a child when it would be ideal or better for the child when I'm in my 30s. Because if I have in my 52, I'm going to be, 60, when the kid graduates from high school?
So,
my
like,
thing is,
18,
Gary,
52,
everybody has their own personal decisions, okay?
Well, and
I
that-
could,
that's right.
technically, I'm ready. I
Sure,
can do
but
this,
is there any
but
selfishness
I'm
involved
not
is
in
my
a place
question.
financially where I would be comfortable bringing, that would be selfish to that child, for me to bring in a
I agree
child
with that.
that I cannot take care of. That's not fair.
I agree.
So I would rather, hold on, let me build my career until I am financially in a place where I can do that and feel comfortable. There are many women that feel that way, and I don't think that's selfish. I think that is actually looking out for the betterment
The
of
way you
themselves.
describe it is not selfish, you're right. But what about the way I described it?
The way you describe it, I mean, you want my honest, blunt opinion?
Absolutely, I'm good, I can take it.
Well, but don't a lot of parents, even in traditional homes, at least in part, act with the selfish motivation you talked about. Let's wait till I finish school. Let's wait till we get established. Let's wait till we get a house. Let's wait for something, and then sometimes sort of life takes hold, and all of a sudden we waited too long, or in your view, waited too long, and so we should impose our view, because you're lawyers here, and this is what we got to bring it back to, right? Impose our own moral view as to how other people choose to live, because that's a part of it. I mean, this you will have people with these issues. The question is, are we going to address it or not? Because the science is long past our sort of concerns about, is this possible? It's the permutations are so endless now, it just creates unbelievable quagmires for us lawyers to be involved in. And that's part of it. I mean, you know, obviously there are issues, you know, I guess Gary's argument is we should have more pregnant teenagers because they will certainly be living long enough to take care of these children. But obviously there are attendant issues regardless. And I'm not quite sure you can sit there and say, well, you know, you need to have them sooner because, and I do recognize the validity of the point in general. My father was 8 years older than my mother. And my brother and I are the last of 5 children. So I think when I was born, my mother was 40, I think. And my father died when I was 14. So to some extent, you know, the next 10 years, which for boys especially is not, you know, in Boston is not always. So I was raised for a period of time, at least I would see it. And I'm not sort of, I don't think I'm any worse off. And think, frankly, and that's what I think. And I've seen other people who have been raised virtually exclusively in a single-parent household, or what you might call non-traditional households, and depends on the parent, right? You could have two parents in the house, they could both be useless as parents. I agree with Sunshine's point about you need help, but whether that help comes from another man or another woman, or grandparents, or family, or friends, or Auntie Sandy, it may not matter. And I don't think I don't think we can deal with these issues because I'm not sure we can, you can't impose your view of this on them, other than to say, well, I won't touch the case, because these cases are going to be here, and you've got to decide how we're going to deal with them. And so that I want to just sort of reorient it a little back to some of the legal issues, because there's all sorts of issues here that we're going to talk about later as well. One of these is customized embryos, that whole issue. But as we talk about it, people are figuring out who they want that baby to look like, and what the pre-qualifications of that person are. Like Sandy said, she was looking at the pictures. And then there's some cases which we're going to do the other day. Suit seeks compensation for botched abortion. That's the other aspect of some of these cases, the healthy birth of the birth of a child, but nonetheless that was unexpected. And then there's various articles which I've got here about practices deliver growing number of ethical issues along with the babies. Half siblings. For all we know, Kelly's donated 100 eggs over her lifetime. There's a lot of little Kellys out there somewhere. And the same thing happens with a lot of the sperm donors, is they tend to be the same people. And you don't necessarily know some of those issues. And even the issue I talked to you about the other day, conceiving after death, which is possible now. And the question of drawing the sperm even after death. But I want to get back to sort of the personal services contract that is part of the package here. And some of them are probably simple issues. Is there an age that you would require? And I guess there's two things. You could look at it as you're writing a statute, if you're the legislature, and this becomes very important, is what state you're going to work within, because some states will say, period, like Mass, where Mass says, you can't have this agreement that's going to relinquish the rights of the child if it deals until after the child's born. Well, geez, we got a lot of problems here that have to be addressed beforehand, because if it's a straight surrogacy arrangement, womb for rent, as far as I'm concerned, the surrogate is a stranger. That's my sperm, my wife's egg. You're a stranger to this transaction, other than a place to house the child. Should the carrier be 18? At a minimum, I assume. 21? No. 25? Some states require that the carrier already have had children. Would you do that? What are you saying there? Well, why would you think that would be important? But many states have that requirement.
You've gone through, you've had your child.
You know that the person doesn't have the propensity to miscarry.
That, as well as the other part of it that Kelly says, is that they're not gonna have their first child and say, oh, I can't, right? I mean, there's the psychological aspect of it as well. And how many times are we gonna implant the embryos, right? The carrier's husband, is there a bonus for multiple births? I'm looking at this language here that I pulled down.
Now we're talking about children like gamble, like, what is it, the lottery.
I pulled this language down from surrogacy.com, legals, and it says it's gestational contract. The biological parents agree to pay the carrier as compensation for the services provided, the sum of blank number dollars, following a single live birth. That's what it says. So, I mean, that is what I'm paying for, right? I'm not paying for a baby stillborn, so there's no money otherwise?
You mean if the baby's stillborn, you're not gonna give her nothing?
What?
You're not gonna give her nothing, Sheila?
I'm just reading you the language that's within this contract. And then at the end, and the money goes into escrow, because the money's not gonna change hands until
Baby's born.
baby's born. And then there is a provision here, in the event of multiple births, biological parents agree to pay an additional blank per fetus directly to the carrier at the time described above, that the money is paid from the escrow account.
That's not right.
Well, what do you, okay, tell me what you mean by it's not right, because the likelihood is that they don't always just implant a single embryo because they're concerned that they don't know whether it will take, so oftentimes they will implant multiple ones with the hope that some of them will take. But you asked for one, I'm giving you two, I should be getting a premium, or maybe I don't want to. I'm asking, you're gonna write the agreement, I'm paying for one, that's all I want.
What you gonna do with the other?
My mother had twins. It was hard, right? She wanted twins, but I think a lot of people would say,
I want twins. I'm fine.
get it out of the way, you're such a good parent.
Time up after.
Knee bid, in other words.
Take all the good things I said about you back.
So is that provision go in there? I mean, I just want to know what you're going to do, because we have to recognize that A, we could have no baby. Baby could be stillborn. We could have a live baby, just what we expected. We could have multiple live babies. We could have a baby, the baby has various birth defects. We could have multiple babies with birth defects. I mean, does all of this have to be accounted for in the agreement?
And can you have to have an
You see,
abortion,
but-
one in the agreement, to make it.
Well, we're gonna get, that's right, that's.
What did you say?
You can make it an abort, can you put it in a contract, you have to abort the other one?
Certain-
Oh my God.
Oh.
Or abort them both, depending on
Is it the
genetic testing.
Oh,
What?
Nothing.
No,
I'm
you
enduring this class today.
You're what?
I'm enduring this class today.
Well, you shouldn't just endure it,
Well, I'm
you
gonna repeat what she said. She said it's the baby's fault. That's what
No, I said, is it the
That's what I mean.
baby's
Is it
fault?
the baby's fault?
So you're gonna try
I agree.
to contract something that you have no control over.
Right.
So say you throw
Correct.
everything at the wall and you end up with 3
There you
babies.
go.
So now the real parents of these embryos are not gonna want them because 2 came out, and say one of those 3, it has, what did you say, a derelict child? I mean, so now we're gonna start aborting them? I mean, come on, it's not their fault.
Derelict child.
Okay, but listen, I don't disagree with you, but
But how can
if
we
I'm paying,
contract that?
if I'm paying up to $35,000 for just the egg, I'm paying another whole bunch of money for the IVF process. I have, let's be honest, I have certain expectations here,
And
right?
that's fine that you should
And I'm looking
have.
for a Beamer, I'm not looking for a Yugo.
And that's the thing, all things you can do, but not all things are beneficial for you. And that's what I would advise my client. You can do all of this and I will put this in the contract, but I'll tell you, you may not get what you're trying to pay for, because we can't control.
Well, if we don't get what we pay for, we want a provision in there that says that we can abort, at our direction, that child will be aborted.
And I will tell the person that's gonna contract with you, the surrogate, to find herself a lawyer too, to make sure that that contract is not one-sided.
And we'll pay you, okay, listen, we'll pay you a premium to do that. I'll pay an extra $50,000 if that's what it comes to. Don't throw your pen down and
And
discuss.
I will be telling you that I will not be representing you as counsel.
Oh, is that okay? Is that we're going to draw the line?
Yes.
So I can write the agreement, but I will not write it with certain provisions. That's okay. Listen, all I'm asking you to start to think about is what provisions have to at least be contemplated, and at some point, in for a penny, in for a pound, right? If you've decided you're going to do this, then now we're going to figure out all the various permutations and the problems that are with it, because God knows there's a million of them, and they're not just legal issues, as many of us sitting around it. There's certain moral issues as we see it from even our own family situations and the like that are attended with this. So you start to worry. Life insurance for the mother's life. I mean, this potentially people die doing this. So should there be? I've got a checklist surrogacy contract, and so this is from the Divorce and Family Law Center. Tell me what you think, or maybe you guys have other provisions.
I'm just thinking about when this class started, you said, you guys gotta do this and you guys are gonna have to be the ones that are gonna have to sleep at night with these decisions.
You're right. Listen, that's.
And knowing that my client says, okay, I want one, but if 3 are born, then I don't want the other 2, and then I wouldn't be able to do the contract like that person's just.
I don't disagree with you. I think this is something. This is why, remedies is important because it's remedies for people's problems. But I also see it as part that you have to start to think about these problems as this is your bridge to the problems you're going to encounter. My wife for a long time did the state intervention cases with the children and all, where the state comes in and takes the kids away, and I do civil cases. Early on I did some criminal cases. Much cleaner, much easier. She would have the state coming in thinking that they're doing good here and breaking out. I'm a family. My 5 brothers and sisters, 4 brothers and sisters plus me, and they would take those kids and they would scatter them into the wind. That somehow this was in their best interest. Even frankly, to me, what would be better is that together than split up like this. But obviously, it would be hard to find someone even to take 3 kids sometimes. And you read these situations, or you read where the mother of those 3 would prefer the abusive, crappy boyfriend in the house still than her own 3 kids. And you'd read these situations and you'd say, oh my God, what is wrong with people? I frankly wouldn't have had the stomach to do those types of cases. But she did because it's an important work. I don't diminish that. But that's what you guys have to decide what it is. Because to me, my few interactions with DSS over the years where they got involved in private clients that I was representing, DCF now, was just horrendous. And the lawyers were no better, in my opinion, because they drank the Kool-Aid as well. They oftentimes, in my opinion, didn't see the forest for the trees. So the fact is that you all have to figure out where it is, your role here is in what you can do. But if we're going to get involved in this, there's a lot of issues. Obviously, there's some money for you to be made, but there's a lot of things that I think will be problematic for you, like some of Jeannie's cases were very problematic for me. I just, the stuff really would turn your stomach and make you sick at times, the thoughts of what the children would go through as a result of it. Things having 0 to do with these kids and just being in a bad situation. That's why, 2 parents, especially if you see some of these cases, 2 parents aren't any better. So one decent one is probably would still be better off than 50% of the kids are.
You need help, though.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree. You need help.
Go to the juvenile court.
There's a provision here in my checklist. It says statement that the mother is unable to sustain a pregnancy. Should that be part of who the people eligible are? Because some people do this, and again, I think this sounds odd for us. Some people do this simply because they choose not to be pregnant, have the attendant time taken away from their work being pregnant, and don't want their looks to change as a result of being pregnant. Well-
that selfish?
Well, okay, but so wait a minute, so what about it, must this be for medical reasons, or no, if someone wants to do it, for whatever reason they choose to do it, that should be permitted, because number 3 on the checklist here, 4 on this checklist is statement that the mother is unable to sustain a pregnancy. Would you allow it to be done for other than medical reasons?
I probably would, but I still think it's selfish to some level.
How many babies have you had?
How many what?
Babies. That you birthed.
One that I know of.
That you birthed?
That you birthed.
You know,
you birthed.
you know what my trouble with that is don't we all act in our own self-interest through much of what we do?
Yes.
Except maybe when it comes to children, some people think a little bit more holistically, I think. I would like to think. You know, I want to have children someday. I think about when, you know.
Well, why?
You aren't
Why'd
ready
you
with
have
that
a
kid,
kid?
that makeup to be able to do that,
make your
though.
life more whole?
Gary, are you being real or are you the devil's advocate over
I'm
here?
not going to Well, we go to law school to learn how to argue both sides, right?
Right. But I think, I guess what do you think? Don't people, as a general matter, tend to act in their own self-interest? You hope that they have a charitable side and look for the benefit of society as well. But at the end of the day, most people also say, how does this affect Mike?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
What happens to Sandy if I do this?
Yeah, I'm okay with that, but also, hopefully you're putting some thought into, you know, am I gonna be a good parent?
Oh, I hope.
You know, am I gonna do well by that child? That's what I'm hoping for, I guess.
I agree. Do you think, and I don't know what the answer to this is, I can ask, do you think the majority of parents make that analysis before having kids?
I don't know, I've never seen anything on
They're
it.
too busy practicing.
There's a lot of mistakes, we know that weren't planned, but, you
Right.
know, were they planning on having a father someday, you know, or a mother, or, you know? And maybe it happened sooner than they expected, but, you know.
You're never gonna be ready to have a baby.
Yes, right. I would.
You're never gonna be ready. There's always gonna be something more that you need to do. So,
And I agree with that.
you're never gonna be ready.
But it
I'm
happens.
gonna wait till I finish school, I'm gonna wait till I have this great job, I'm gonna wait till I have enough money. It's never gonna happen.
But I would rather a woman wait until she's mentally ready. If
Right.
she's not mentally ready for that, then that's not fair to that child either.
I
And
agree
that's
with
the
you
truth.
100%.
There are some women that just do not want babies. And that's not
agree.
selfish. That's the way they're chemically been made up. Maybe it's okay for them to have a nephew or a niece or a godchild. They're just fine with that.
I'm okay with that.
But I feel like if a woman is like, well, it's the prime time for me to have one, but you're not mentally ready, that's not fair to yourself, to the child, to anybody that's gonna be assisting you.
Correct.
But if you wait till later, then I don't think that that's selfish to the child, but you at least are mentally prepared and probably more gainfully employed than you were when you weren't ready.
No limits,
I
age-wise?
mean, you're age-wise, but at the end of the day, it depends on how you live your life. I could be living recklessly at 25.
Right.
It doesn't matter, you know?
60, okay.
I've seen some 60-year-olds that look like they're 20, okay?
But for the child's not gonna have a parent in 10 years.
We don't know that.
You don't know that.
If you see my grandmother at 85 years old, honey, you will be fooled. I'm telling you, because she looks like she's 40.
So she can
and that's
still
the
go out
truth.
back and throw the ball with the
I
kid,
would say,
right?
I mean,
But there are parents in their 20s and 30s who don't go out back and throw the ball with the kid, you know? I mean, they
But
spend way
again-
too much time at the bar, so.
Right, right.
Let me go further with the list, because I want you to start to think about the provisions and the legal aspect of it. Agreement by the surrogate to submit to requested physical and psychological exams.
Yes.
Yes.
Health insurance coverage, obviously. Agreement by the father, mother, and surrogate to assist reproductive technology procedures involved in placement of fertilized embryos in the uterus of the surrogate. Obviously, that has to take part. Agreement as to the maximum number of attempts to achieve a pregnancy.
Yes.
15, 20, 30, whatever the agreement says.
I believe the surrogate should.
Agreement that the surrogate will not engage in intercourse during the attempts to achieve a pregnancy.
That was my
they
thought
were
the whole
talking.
time I was reading this. I was like, whoa, is she gonna, if I have to put my baby in there, is her husband gonna poke my baby's head? Like, I don't think
Really, Sunshine?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
That's
that's
not
not
real,
real,
Sunshine.
He's gonna come out with a bump on his head.
That's TMI.
Oh my God, way too educated.
Sunshine, really? Come on, homie.
I thought about that, I thought about it. I'm
Brain
like,
damage.
Okay, but wait a minute, I wanna go to,
Having a different child.
I wanna go to the legal part of it. You're gonna put a provision in the agreement that restricts the right of the surrogate
Yes.
to have intercourse.
Yes, I would if I was gonna write that.
No, I disagree.
I've heard from when they're pregnant.
Okay, Patrick wants to know why not.
They say they go faster, I know.
Why wouldn't I put it in? Is that what you're asking me?
I don't know, I'm confused.
I'm saying, let her have sex.
Thank you.
Right, me too.
What if she gets an STD?
Who cares?
Well,
They
maybe.
do tell you when you're like 9 months or 8 months
No.
to have sex because you can have your baby faster.
Okay, but wait a minute, no, but during the
We're not gonna-
attempts to achieve a pregnancy
Same.
is what the language is.
Who cares?
No.
Well,
It's a small
because
thing.
then the
Yeah.
father might not be
Yeah,
the sperm
no,
donor.
she's trying to get,
Oh, I
Right.
get it.
During that
Okay.
time.
Ah, okay.
During-
Okay.
during-
That's
That
different.
time, But once we have established that,
She's pregnant.
oh,
You need to listen to the
Okay,
call of
sorry,
the
I didn't
question.
hear
The
it.
question says, agreement that the surrogate will not engage in intercourse during the attempts to
Oh,
achieve
yes.
a pregnancy.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
okay, yeah.
because-
Okay,
Yes,
that
of
could be
course.
months.
So what?
So.
She's
So
gonna-
the
she's gonna-
surrogate can't have sexual relations for months.
That's
I
right.
wonder if the husband consents. The surrogate husband should be in the contract.
Why would he, can he
So you want, he's gonna have to be in here too. Go ahead.
He's saying,
why would he, he's betting on this.
laws
Doesn't he
of
bet?
consortium, he can say that he's not gonna, you know? I'm not
If
saying
he's
that's
allowing
right,
his
I'm
wife
just
to be a
saying-
surrogate, then
talking
he
about the
should agree that they
surrogate.
can't have
The
sex until the
surrogate.
baby
Oh,
is.
no, I was thinking about the other side.
Yes.
Well, once
Once
conceived,
conceived, then no problem.
If the surrogate is
Even when
promiscuous
the
and
baby's
she's sleeping around, there's a chance of an STD as well.
well, what about that? If the surrogate is promiscuous, then there's also a chance of STD.
Why would you even pick someone like that?
You don't know who
I
you
think
Oh,
it could be one person.
Don't know, so you gotta put it in the contract.
All you're choosing
Well,
is.
that's, you don't know until you put it in the contract and determine whether it's an issue.
You test
Okay,
her,
we could put
you test her beforehand, that's gonna go in there.
Testing in advance.
Yeah.
It's physical testing, but you don't know what she can do.
Here's your next one.
That's right.
Agreement that the surrogate will not terminate the pregnancy unless her own life is at risk.
yeah.
Yes.
So you are gonna put a provision in the agreement that restricts her ability to have an abortion.
Yes.
Right.
It's not her baby anyway, right?
It's a fundamental right.
Wow.
So you're gonna restrict her,
Yeah, but think about that,
Can't
'cause-
do that.
because if you
Why not?
support,
Scrutiny applies.
yeah, because if you support abortion in general, you can't tell somebody that they can't have it.
why can't we? Why
It's
can't
not
we
her
contract
baby.
with them? I'm not telling you, we're agreeing you
It's
won't.
not her baby.
If you support abortion,
Well, I'm not going there, but anyway.
what if she doesn't wanna keep going, being pregnant, that's her choice not to be pregnant?
Not,
She doesn't-
not
she
anymore.
doesn't-
She's a
She doesn't have
surrogate.
to sign it, she doesn't have to accept the money.
That's right.
She's
That's
not
what
the
she
mother.
says.
All
Gives
she
the
is.
money back and says, I don't wanna do this anymore.
No, but and this, okay, listen, this is where the,
Choice.
the tire hits the road here. At the end of the day, it's a personal service contract.
Yes.
Unique personal services.
Yes.
Yes.
Specific
But
performance.
can we enforce it?
No.
We can't? So you're saying that the surrogate would have the right, even with such a provision, to terminate the life of my 5-month-old fetus?
The sperm and the egg are coming from the,
Not from the surrogate at all.
at all. So it's not her baby.
Correct.
So-
Just her body.
That's right.
And
She's the little-
and we're gonna put a provision in there, we're gonna hold her to it.
Yes.
So if a man gets a woman pregnant and they were out partying and he wants the baby but she doesn't, and he says you can't have an abortion, that's okay too, 'cause it's not all her baby. Half it's her baby.
Put it this way, if a baby is conceived out of wedlock, the only consent they need is the mother, not the father.
You said genetic.
If the baby is conceived out of wedlock, the only consent they need is the mother.
But if the-
Statutorily, look
But
it up.
now is it fair that she can have the baby, but the man has to now support the baby if he didn't want it? That's okay,
Yes, it is, okay.
see? I
And
know.
that's the other part of this process here, is there may well be that the procreative parents might want a provision in here that says, not that you won't, but under certain conditions, you will be required to abort it. Because, and then what happens if that provision's violated, the surrogate says no, because I had that case within the last couple of weeks here, where they said, no, we'll give you $10,000 extra to abort the child. They said, surrogate said no. Does the parents now have to financially support that child that they don't no longer want?
Yes.
Agreement by the surrogate to refrain from smoking, drinking, and using illicit drugs during the pregnancy.
Yes.
Agreement that the surrogate will obtain regular prenatal medical care with or without the father, mother in attendance.
Yes.
So the father and mother, though, you might want provisions where they can be in attendance.
Correct.
And attendance at birth.
Correct.
Agreement that the surrogate will submit to any medical testing requested by the father and mother.
Yes.
Agreement regarding the diet of the surrogate during the pregnancy.
Yes.
The what?
Yeah,
Diet.
that can be.
Yes.
So I can tell you what you're gonna eat for the next 9
It
months?
affects the baby directly, yes.
Agreement regarding any restrictions on activities of the surrogate during the pregnancy.
Yes.
I can say anything else. She might as well be my slave.
Well, she's carrying my baby.
So she is my slave.
She's a vessel.
Basically.
She's a vessel.
So she needs to like.
And that's it. She's got no rights, by contract at least. We can.
If she signs that, no, she does not.
Pay
She
a
can
lot
refuse
for her
to
do
sign that.
It's a year of her life gone.
And not
You gotta
drink.
taste it.
Agreement that the father and mother will not be present for the birth of the child, will be present, we said that. Agreement that the surrogate and her husband obviously will have no claim to physical or legal custody of the child born as a result of the surrogate, that she will terminate her rights upon the birth of the child. Agreement that it is in the child's best interest that she be raised by the father and mother, that they relinquish custody, and agreement regarding the financial terms, including reimbursement or payment for uninsured pregnancy-related medical expenses, psychological counseling, maternity wear,
Yes.
lodging and other living expenses.
Lodging.
If the surrogate relocates to be near the mother and father
Oh, yes.
during
okay.
the 9 months, payment of travel expenses, and would establish what level of travel and what type of hotel she would be capable of staying at. Because that's the other part. Some of you may represent the surrogate. We haven't. We're all thinking you're going to represent the parents, but the surrogate needs representation somewhere along the way. Agreement as to compensation should the pregnancy not proceed to term.
Yes, I agree with that.
So she gets something either way.
Yes.
Confidentiality provisions.
Those are good chances.
Yeah.
Depends on who you are.
Mhm.
Governing law. A provision with respect to what law will control the transaction.
Yes.
And obviously, what forum any disputes would have to be brought to.
But that, now you can't control that totally with contract, right? Because
Can't control what exclusively by contract.
the jurisdiction, diversity, for example, or you can't, you can say we want to do it in Massachusetts, but what if the surrogate's from New Hampshire, and what if the plaintiffs or the biological parents are from New York or something, or
We can provide an exclusive
forum selection?
forum for jurisdiction by contract. And we can provide an exclusive choice of law provision. Ideally, you would have, this will be governed by Massachusetts law, and any issues that arise under the terms of the contract will be resolved by the Massachusetts Probate and Family Court. You might even say Essex Superior, Essex Probate and Family Court, to try and head off some of that as well.
So what if New Hampshire doesn't allow you to pay the surrogate mom and Mass does?
That's why you need to figure out, this is why at the end of the day, you need to run the various states to try and figure out where we can enter into this transaction, because those provisions that Gary just said, and even some of the provisions that we just went through in your agreements, are going to be governed more by, obviously all of these are governed by state law issues, since it's really, family law issues tend to be reserved for the states. But that all of this is going to be determined by which state we happen to be in. Some states will strictly prohibit the payment of any fees to the surrogate, and what they look for there is sort of the situation where it's a family member or a mother or someone who does it for love that it doesn't become a business-making venture out of concerns of that.
I had a question about the midterm, actually. I was gonna say, are we gonna get that corrected and back?
You can send me another email. You're not gonna get it corrected per se, but I will evaluate it. I think I'd do it on a scale of 1 to 5, let you know how thorough your answers were. But I'm not gonna give out the sample correct answers for that, because where it was an open research assignment, you should have been able to obtain that from the readings themselves. Are there other provisions that you would want in here?
You know, don't engage in dangerous activities. You know?
Well, that's right. There was a restriction on activity, so no skydiving, running, skiing.
Hey.
Take a prenatal vitamin. I mean, again, this is sort of the diet issues. Limit caffeine intake. I can restrict your coffee. Sandy looks alarmed at that.
I drink coffee.
I want the baby to listen to music in the morning. I hear it's good for her.
Maybe that's what happened.
Choose, okay, this actually came from Boston IVF. Yeah, this is Boston IVS that has this. I'm gonna just give you the provisions so you can think about it. Choose low impact exercise over high impact activities. Walking and swimming are recommended. Wear supportive shoes and bra when exercising. Drink plenty of non-caffeinated fluids. Avoid changing cat litter.
Why?
Yeah, why? I didn't know that.
What is
either.
that?
This is Boston IVF. I'm just reading it.
I'll tell you why.
Bad.
There's certain
Can't
things
feel
like-
that. It's bad for the baby.
Yeah, they tell you in here the reason for that.
There you go.
Wow.
This disease is
Yeah, something to do with the, whatever's in it.
Listen, limit to 1 serving per week or avoid altogether fish such as tuna, salmon, swordfish, and shark because of its high mercury content.
Oh.
Yep.
So, raw meat and raw shellfish avoid. Avoid hot tubs and jacuzzis. Okay, so
Of
they,
course, somebody
Well,
doesn't
makes sense.
exercise to exercise.
here, so this, and this in fact is the question I have for you is, you guys seem to have an awful lot of provisions here that you are requiring this person to do. I assume some of it's worth the money, or it's worth it, you're doing it for love and all the rest of it. Are we gonna be able to enforce this? Because last week when we were looking at this, we couldn't even get someone to perform at the BSO, couldn't get Warner, right? We couldn't get Warner Wolf to honor the terms of his contract, and now we're gonna restrict the person to have an abortion or to abort. We're gonna restrict what she can eat. We're gonna restrict her sexual activities. We're going to limit her extracurricular activities for a 9-month period here. I mean,
Breathe good air, not bad air.
this sounds, and you're gonna put all these provisions in this agreement, and I guess I'm wondering to what end? Because we were worried before when we started down this road about making someone, one of you, indentured servant, right? Was one of you guys along that wall over there?
What?
Talked about indentured servitude. I think it was one of you, Pete, one of you guys over here, right? Slave.
I said it's pretty much what you
Oh,
But that's pretty much what you're doing here, aren't you?
you have my baby in your body, of course I'm gonna like make sure that you're doing all the right things. I don't know if they call it slavery, but.
Well,
Just have a near the C-section.
well, okay, I mean, I understand the rationale, but you are expecting to require the surrogate to meet some pretty high expectations here. I mean, like, there's very few other employers that could put these provisions in there that we wouldn't be saying, oh, you can't do that. But now we can?
It's
You
a
know?
human life.
What?
It's a human life.
And so what does that mean with respect to these personal, so it's not personal services, it's more like unique goods, right? No, right, I can get specific performance on unique goods, I can, right? That's the law. I can't get it on personal service, so is that what we're talking about? This is a unique goods. And there isn't really a more unique good than this one.
That's right. It's
So is that what it is?
To me,
So will I be able to get it? And so I go by one day, surrogate's 4 months pregnant. I knock on the door, she lets me in. She's sitting there, she's got a pack of butts next to the chair. And a bud, watching Maury. And I say, what the hell? This wasn't what we agreed to.
so she breached my contract.
Okay, so she's breached the contract. Now what?
What's the remedy? Oh my God, I don't know.
Now what? Really, now what?
Damages.
You go find.
Damages. I get money. She's injuring my child as I sit there in contravention to the agreement you wrote up for me.
Listening to Maury.
Right.
She's gotta hear that in the movie.
Yeah, she
New
breached the
surrogate.
contract.
She
That's
keeps the baby, new surrogate.
So what?
She keeps the baby, returns expenses, go get a new surrogate.
She keeps the baby, but that's my baby. That's my
baby.
wife and my baby,
New
right?
surrogate. Start over.
But, I mean, huh?
Start over.
Well,
I mean, I thought,
a slave can produce a unique good too, right? So.
What?
Slavery is a unique good, right? You can't make a slave or indentured servant, right? Do what you want him to do. That's slavery.
Right, can't drag a horse to water, I get it. I get that. But
well,
again.
why not?
It's a unique good.
It's a unique bed.
Why not? Why can't I say, you won't smoke? I'm gonna call you. Sandy, I want an injunction prohibiting her from smoking and drinking. That's what we said. I'm not sure there's a doctor in the world left that would say, what the hell? Pack of butts a day and a couple of beers, there's not gonna be any big deal about that. Right? I mean, all the medical evidence would appear to indicate that this is damaging to my child. And we're talking about smokes and butts. My guess is we could be looking at drugs in other situations and things much more harmful as well, right? So take whatever situation you want. What's the remedy now? Are we going to get that injunction? And because that's what I need. I need an injunction to make her honor the
Why
terms of the
not?
contract,
Why,
huh?
why couldn't you?
I'm asking you,
I mean, not for
because I'm
that.
remembering the early cases we did at the beginning of this section about personal services contracts, and Vanessa Redgrave couldn't even get the PSO ordered to pay,
Yeah, but the
to
current
make
case-
her let her perform.
The current cases here, the one with Cullerton or whatever, didn't they get an injunction for like, what was the case about,
No,
was
because
it this one or the other one? about the
Carlton
surrogate?
was
Both
just an
sides
injunction
agreed.
allowing the name to go on the birth certificate.
Both sides agreed though, that's different. Whereas the New Jersey case had a state law against it, so. The Cullerton case, both sides agreed. The surrogate mom was in agreement, she was okay with it. So you didn't have a debate there.
Right.
You just didn't have enough precedent. And that's where you're going with that, because if I was a judge, I would have to look at, going back to your original question about an injunction for smoking and drinking or drugs. The judge can make law, maybe, but he's gonna take a big risk if he does it, because then the appeal and whatever process is gonna take place, that woman's gonna say, you can't make me do this, that's slavery.
But why can't I? Why can't I? Sandy's been saying all along, that's my baby. That's my child. Sunshine has said it many times in many different ways. This is a gift from God. Right? So why can't we now enforce the provisions that we agreed to?
Because my God believes in marijuana smoking, and your God doesn't, that's too bad.
Well, then you should have made peace
Are
with
you
your God
serious?
before you signed the agreement.
Don't even get me started.
Peyote.
Should have made peace with your God before you signed an agreement that controlled in pretty microscopic detail your activities for the next 9 months.
Why not? I'm gonna say it again, why can't we do
Why
that?
can't we? Well,
You
because
can
I think your
try
problem is
doing that.
personal services generally no.
Exactly.
So we gotta go unique goods?
Yes. I mean, it's, a baby is unique, a baby is like a precious gift, like you said, from God. I mean, why couldn't you do that?
So I can't.
Yeah.
So we're going to court and we're gonna get an injunction, prohibit you from drinking, prohibit you from
Yes.
smoking, and to honor the terms of our agreement over the course of the next 5
Yes,
months.
because I'll have all the proof to say that you shouldn't be smoking and you shouldn't be drinking.
I mean, I think you need a little, but I think that's, you know, and we'll put at doing drugs, right? So, because it is common sense that obviously that would have dangerous potential effects for the child. So I get my injunction. Mom doesn't comply. Now what?
You comply.
What?
No.
Okay, so now the next step, and this is for the end of the week as well, now she'd be in contempt of the court's order.
Correct.
So now we bring a contempt action.
Then we throw her in jail.
TT says,
My baby will be in jail.
we're gonna jail, she's gonna do better off being in jail than sitting in front of Maury with the pack of butts.
Not confine her in jail, like in your home, like she's under house arrest in your home, in a special room that you have for her.
Stay in that room.
I agree, something like that.
With a little slot under the door to send her food in and her
But
diaper.
in prison, it's
Eat
more
what I
like
put on the door.
confined in your home where you have supervision over her, not like she's in prison.
In the
She's
basement.
confined in your
Put some
home
lotion on
in
the skin.
some guest room, some nice plush guest room with a maid.
I wanna know why she can't be jailed. Someone else in contempt would be jailed.
But it's a special, unique.
That's my baby in the prison now.
I'd rather have my baby in the prison than with the pack of butts and Maury and the beer.
Have you ever been to prison?
Yes.
For a long period of time.
Confined in
For a
prison?
long period of time. It's not a
No,
nice
not
place
for
to
a
be.
long period of time.
It's not a nice place to be.
But do you think the baby's really gonna know the baby's in
Oh,
prison?
don't repeat the question. Let's go back to where you were. Are you qualified to
I'm a
teach
lawyer. I have been in prison.
Oh,
No, behind.
No, not confined in prison.
Have you been confined?
For how long?
Just detained.
Not overnight, okay? Longer.
Oh, no,
Okay?
no
Being
longer.
in prison for a long period of time is not a nice place to be.
Okay, but the baby is not gonna know the baby's in prison. The baby's in a womb, right?
It's not a nice place for the woman to be.
Then don't smoke, don't drink, don't be in violation of the court order.
She's gonna have access to worse things in prison though.
I don't disagree with that, but so what's your alternative?
You don't think she can smoke in
Solitary
prison? That she
confinement in
can't-
prison.
Seek corrective action.
I mean, she can have coffee in prison, you can drink in prison, there's alcohol, there's drugs, there's all kinds of stuff.
I think that she risks further penalties with contempt.
Yeah,
Well, then I'll go,
Solitary
TD's rule was
confinement.
just go hire the maid and stick her into the little padded room in the house.
Pick that lady in
Just
the-
chain her in the
I like
basement.
JT's idea.
So, but wait a minute though, so tell me what your alternative is, because
I'm
you've written up
serious.
this real
I like
beautiful
TT.
agreement, but now you all seem to be indicating to me, oh, it doesn't really make a difference what it says, because at the end of the day, there's no teeth to the whole agreement. Is that
I
what?
agree with TT, she needs to be in my house or something, so I can watch her.
So you expect that the court is gonna give you some type of order that she become a prisoner in your house, like
I get custody
some one of those
of my
horror
own
movies?
child.
Huh?
I get custody
Custody
of
of
it
the
of my
surrogate.
child.
Custody
I'm
of the
serious,
surrogate.
this is just not right, you're not gonna put her in jail.
So your order is that she be, in essence, the court order that since she is in contempt, she is in essence sort of remanded to your custody for the
Well,
balance
if
of her
not
pregnancy.
mine, somewhere. You know,
Well,
you
what,
don't know-
where? I understand we're looking, but somewhere means where for this?
I don't know.
Because if it's not prison, where is it?
I have to research this, because that's just not gonna happen.
I won't be writing those contracts, thank you very much, so whatever.
Well, but then maybe you're gonna be opposing those contracts when they are written. What's
Yes.
your argument? She signed this agreement with or without your help.
Me out here for sunshine.
It's clearly what she's doing is harmful to the child. I pulled this off the bulletin board at one point. You see this? Egg donor, $5,000, was on the bulletin board right over there.
Really?
Yeah.
There's another one.
Is it?
There's a
Well,
activity or
you don't want it
something.
up there?
No, I wanted to show you guys. I made a copy of it.
Kelly, is that yours?
They want, must have brown hair, brown eyes, prefer Greek, Albanian, or Italian descent. Compensation offered, $5,000. Healthy, non-smoking woman between the age of 21 and 28.
Can we do that?
Huh?
Yeah, they can.
As far as race, well, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you think they do when they look through the Spur book?
Yes, they look through the book and.
Right? That's what they're doing. Why should it be any different than when I decide who's gonna provide the other part of the genetic material? There was one, the 35 or the $50,000 one, they wanted a 6-foot tall volleyball player with blonde hair, female.
I hope they never get it.
But you know they're going to, right? I mean, there are not.
They don't, I'm sorry, it's not nice.
Okay, but so I want you to help me with this because I'm not sure where you're at okay, so we've got an agreement. You told me all these provisions you're gonna put in there, but now you're telling me, oh, it's just a bunch of talk because there's no way we can do anything about it.
No, it's not a bunch of talk, I disagree with that.
Okay, so then tell me what okay, now I come to you and I say, she's smoking. Or I say,
I know, I don't
she
have
won't
the
abort.
I
The
don't
deal
have
was
the
she
answer.
would, the
Don't
genetic testing is bad, I don't wanna pay for this child. And the agreement was she would do X, she says no. Are you gonna be able to have a probate court enforce the provisions that you put into this agreement?
If it's a danger to the child, I would think yes. But I don't know what the
Bringing
remedy
different
would be.
laws.
And so what if it's not the danger to the child, but it's the other side of it? The provision requires that when the testing came back and it was adverse to the procreative parent's desires, that there would be an abortion. And the surrogate says, no, I'm bonded to this child, I felt the child move, I'm not aborting anything. Is the court gonna give you an order forcing the surrogate to abort a child she wants?
Probably not.
So, will the procreative father have to support that child?
Yes.
Even though doesn't want it, and there was a provision in there that said didn't have to have it? Is that child an heir of that parent?
Some people want it both ways.
It's not that I want it both ways, it's right, abortion is a fundamental right, so.
But there's a lot of rights that we waive. Here's this last one that I'll leave you with for you to think about. And this was the one from the other day from CNN. This is dated March 5th, 2013. And it says, it showed the ultrasound there on it. It says, surrogate offered $10,000 to abort baby. And this is from CNN.com. It says, Crystal Kelly, K-E-L-L-E-Y, if someone wants to look it up on CNN, ran through the calendar once again in her head. It was August, and if she got pregnant soon, she could avoid carrying during the hot summer months. She'd done that before and didn't want to do again. There was no time to lose, but there was one problem. She had no one to get her pregnant. Kelly picked up the phone, called a familiar number. What about the nice single man who'd inquired before? Would he be interested? No, the woman told her she hadn't heard from him in weeks. Disappointed, she asked someone else. She'd had 2 miscarriages before. She wanted to help someone else with the fertility problems, plus she really needed the $22,000 fee. And so she went forward, but then there were issues that developed during it, and it became even more problematic down the road.
Issues with the baby, you mean?
Huh?
Issues with the baby?
Issues with the health of the baby as the procreative parent saw it. And you ought to read the article because it is an interesting article. It's entitled Surrogate Offered $10,000 to Abort Baby. And there's sort of a give and take about 10 isn't enough, 15 will do it. And then there's no agreement
So
on
why
that.
can't we put adoption in there then?
Adoption in where?
In the
Oh,
agreement,
that you can't,
instead of
if you
aborting,
carry it to term,
I just don't want that.
despite my opposition, you won't retain any parental rights. Either you'll
forfeit those rights.
You'll put the child up for adoption.
Yeah,
Another child would have to leave someone who does want them as a pet, who wants that child.
what do you mean, one, I thought you're
So
telling me,
instead of aborting, put it up for adoption.
yeah,
What
don't
I
wanna,
would say.
like if there's something wrong with the baby, just cause the baby's special needs or whatever, doesn't mean that somebody else don't want the baby, or maybe those parents don't want them, but maybe somebody else will.
But the surrogate, in this case, the surrogate wanted the child.
So let her have it.
Well, does the child still need to be supported by the father and mother who?
No.
That needs to be in there, for sure.
What if the surrogate keeps it?
decides that she's gonna keep the baby,
He can sign his right to over.
she's on her own.
Right, she's on his own.
So now my child is raised by someone else who may not be financially capable of raising that child. That seems like, I mean, obviously I'm not a very sympathetic person at this point, but that would seem kind of burdensome for me to
I'd rather
carry.
have somebody who's somewhat unable to take care of the baby financially and figure out how to do that, rather than kill the baby. That's just wrong.
Well, but if someone is, I don't disagree that whatever all the various issues, but
There's help out there for that. And I'll
that
help
wasn't
her.
our agreement.
I'll help her.
I think legislation should say, legislation, not a contract of surrogacy, legislators should write that if you pay someone to be your surrogate, whatever happens, because even if my husband impregnated me, anything can happen in my pregnancy, that you're stuck with that you can't go back. You decided to play with fire, and now you have to be accountable.
And again, there are gonna be, within whatever states, as we start to look at this, there are going to be restrictions on what you can and can't put into the agreements. And that may well make most sense for a lot of the states, is just to lay it out clearly that, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound. But here's your problem as you start to think about it. You know, so now we've got our agreements, we've written them up, and as we still sit here today, we say, okay, but I'm not sure there's a court in the world that's going to enforce some of the resolutions that we sit here and come up with on some of the more difficult but likely problems in a lot of these cases, right? So what do you tell your clients? Because and your clients are the surrogate, the surrogate's partner, the procreative parents. I guess you may be representing the egg donor at some point. The sperm donor doesn't seem to have much life or value to all of this, as it turns out. Certainly far less than anyone else in the process, it would look. So what do? They pay us a lot for really a very detailed agreement. At the end of the day, we don't think there's any court that will enforce the provisions should the spit really hit the fan. In a lot of these cases, it may well. And especially, the process is so expensive, both on the front end, the IVF. I mean, the other thing is you should look at IVS agreement. They actually say we don't want to see the contract with the surrogate at all. Just have the lawyer tell us there is one, and we're good with that, because they recognize all of the issues attendant with that. But that process is expensive as well. So it sounds like there's a lot of money going out without many assurances as to results here. And you're not giving me a comfort level as to what can happen if things go bad.
I'm gonna find out.
If I'm drafting the agreement, I'm gonna tell them that there's a high risk in all of this.
Yes.
And I can put anything you want in the agreement.
Yep, but I can't guarantee that a court's gonna enforce, set an order for abortion or whatever you want, but, you know.
And again, if you start to think about it, some of these front-end costs are so big that people are going to have high expectations. And those of us that have had kids, as Cindy pointed out, recognize that those expectations aren't always met how they say, right? And so that's the other part of it here, is you worry that, so I can do the best job I can in the whole world as a lawyer, but at the minimum, there's probably 25% chance that things could go terribly, terribly wrong. And you think about it, not much more wrong in life, right? I mean, all of a sudden, because we've got these unexpected, huge problems to deal with, or at least they were expected, but we still have to deal with it. We'll talk next time. We'll do the rules and the remaining cases on these some of the family law issues that are attendant with that practice. And it is.
Yes.
And I did get all this stuff.
You did.